All right, we got a mock draft 10 team to flexes PPR scoring. I'm at the 101. Aaron is at the 110. So I'm going to
Yep.
start with Justin Jefferson. Pretty easy. It's PPR. Wide receivers are going to score a ton, and you can't get much safer and more consistent than Justin Jefferson. Absolutely in his prime. Most receiving yards, receptions, touchdowns through the first 3 years of any career. Can't go wrong.
Coming up to the 10th spot, usually I like to go receiver, receiver, but that depends on what running back falls. Um, so maybe a hero RB, but I rarely will go RB just because of the state of the wide receiver position.
Bijan
All
is
right, so
there.
coming to my pick, uh, this is actually crazy, and you might not see this in your drafts, but both Cooper Cup and Bijan Robinson made it to me. So those are my picks. I took Cup and Bijan. You have a really high upside receiver and a really high upside rookie running back. So you can't go wrong picking players with super high upside.
And we got a Garrett Wilson truther at the 1-5, taking Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
This kind of stuff, and Travis Kelce Mahomes stack, that's going to happen in your home leagues, guys.
Yep.
There's going to be some weird stuff that happens, and some people who are really big on certain players. I see this kind of stuff all the time in my home leagues.
Yeah, because you might look at the draft and be like, oh, well, no one's going to do that in my league. And then
You never
it
know.
happens.
All right, so I took Justin Jefferson. This is a 2 flex league, so I'm okay going heavy wide receiver. That said, Mark Andrews did make it to me, and in a 10 team, when you need to maximize those positions that are really scarce, like the tight end, I really don't mind going tight end. At running back, it's really dried up. Jonathan Taylor, top running back. I'm not really comfortable with that, so I am going to go a receiver. I'm surprised made it to me in Amon-Ra St. Brown, an absolute stud for PPR.
All right, so coming up on my next turn, since I went receiver and running back, I can really choose and do whatever I want here because I have a balanced roster so far. So just taking a couple look at some picks. Since this is, you can start up to 3 or 4 wide receivers in this draft setting. I do like to go receiver heavy. So that being said, one of my picks is going to be Keenan Allen because I feel like in a PPR draft, you cannot go wrong with Keenan Allen. And then for my next pick, I'll take T. Higgins. So that now makes my lineup Cooper Cup, Bijan, Keenan Allen, and T. Higgins. So whenever you can start those 3 receivers and that running back every week, you have at least 4 players that have week winning upside right there.
So thoughts on not going like Jalen Hurts, who made it to you, Jahmyr Gibbs?
So for me personally, I don't really like taking early quarterbacks. I know you can, especially in 10 team, and it's a very viable strategy. But I like some of the later values, like Justin Herbert, that you can see in like the 5th, 6th round. That's usually my go-to target. And then if I miss out on him, I'll go with like even later, so like a Tua or an Anthony Richardson, especially if it's a 6 point. Then Tua and guys like that have value on their own. And then someone like Gibbs, you definitely can go Gibbs there, and I would not fault you for that pick at all. It's just personally in a league where you can start up to 3 to 4 wide receivers every week, and it's PPR. I would rather stack my wide receiver depth early, and then I can fill in my running back depth later.
Justin Fields going before Lamar Jackson is interesting. And Christian Watson's really running off that board. I got sniped one pick before me. I did want Gibbs there. However, Lamar Jackson did make it to me, and stacking him with Mark Andrews, I really like the upside there. I don't have a running back yet. Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones, the top running backs on the board. And I do like those a little bit more than the receiver options here. Debo I am okay with, but in a full PPR, I'm probably going to go with the running back options. And I do like Joe Mixon this year, so I'm going to take the workload. I'm going to take what I see as a pretty safe pick.
And see, here's something you probably won't see very often. Justin Herbert went ahead of Joe Burrow.
Hmm.
I would say that's not going to happen in many leagues, but you never know. Like we said earlier, crazy things happen. And when people get fixated on a player and they have conviction in a player, then they may take them, however many early rounds early than what they actually need to. All right, so coming back to me on the 5-6 turn, I'm probably leaning running back here just because I only have one so far. So you might have a thought of maybe TJ Hawkinson, someone like that here. But, that's a little early for tight end to me, and I don't really have the greatest conviction in TJ Hawkinson. So I'm going to go Kenneth Walker as my second running back here. And then for my next pick, I'm either considering, Trevor Lawrence, someone like that, maybe a Darren Waller, who I have really high on my board. You know what? Let's go Darren Waller and just see how this draft turns out. So that's Darren Waller in the sixth round, first pick of the sixth round. You already had Andrews, Kittle, and Kelsey off the board. And so Darren Waller going as the fourth tight end. That seems about correct because him, Pitts, Goddard, those type of tight ends, they're pretty much interchangeable. They can go anywhere from the tight end 4 to 7, depending on how you feel about those players. So I personally think Waller is going to be the tight end 3 or better this year, and would not be surprised if he was tight end 2 personally. I mean, obviously health is a risk, but I don't draft thinking like that. I draft with, you got to draft with upside here.
And in a 10 team, I think you need to lock up either an elite tight end or an elite quarterback. And so you had the decision there between Lawrence and Waller, and I do like your pick. Really quick, before I make my pick, only 2% of you guys are subscribed that are watching right now. So if you could, take the time. It's free. Just click that subscribe button. We'd really appreciate it. Help us out. We're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers. I already have quarterback and tight end, so I need to start lining up some good picks at other positions. One pick I really like on the board are the running backs. The top 2 guys, Dameon Pierce and Alexander Madison. I like both of those picks. I went for a workload guy, and you know what? I'm going to go for a guy I see as a potential breakout in Dameon Pierce. So that's my 1-2 punch at running back, Mixon and Pierce. I want to keep shooting for receiver because in PPR, receivers are going to score more in the flex. So my receiver options are a little bit weaker. Godwin, Pittman, Lockett. I do like Lockett. However, if you look down the board a little bit, Mike Williams is still my top wide receiver. He wasn't the highest on the board. He was like the 6th wide receiver, but I'm at the turn, and I can't wait. He's not going to make it back to me, so you got to take your conviction and go for the guy that you like.
Yep. Yeah, that's another thing to talk about too, is whenever you're drafting, don't just draft based on exactly what the board has them ranked.
Yeah.
Draft people based on how you like them. Because, I mean, Mike Williams may have been, the 4th or 5th best receiver according to their rank, but to our personal rankings, he was the number 1 guy on the board. So don't let their rankings fool you or persuade you in a certain way. Go with your convictions. All right, so now I am back on the clock. I'm going to look at the quarterback options. There's not one for a while and none that I feel strongly convicted in. So I can really go whatever direction I want here. So with that said, I'm going to take a guy that I'm really high on this year, and Deontay Johnson. In PPR leagues, I think he is a fantastic play. And then for my next selection, this is going to be another high upside guy that is, going into his second year. I'm going to take James Cook. I like his offense that he's in. I like his chances for high workload. So I'm taking James Cook and hoping, what we saw this past preseason game. He played every single offensive snap with the first team up until they got into the red zone. And unfortunately, Damian Harris came in and stole the touchdown, which that is the downside to James Cook, is that you have Josh Allen and Damian Harris taking touchdowns potentially away from him. But the upside is that he's a good player. He should see a lot of work this year, and he's in a good offense.
In a PPR, I still don't mind it. I think he's got, the receiving work pretty much on lock. And Damian Harris, I think he only had 1 carry, and it was that carry. So, yes, you do have to worry about that, but the upside in a PPR, I really don't mind it. Second-year player, ascending talent, can't really go wrong in the 8th round. Deontay Johnson was the other receiver I was looking at my pick, so I really like the value there at the 7-8 turn. Comes to my pick, and I'm, again, looking at running back, looking at receiver. I do like some of the running back options, and I don't think many are going to make it back to me. So I really want to, line up a 3rd running back. I've got Pacheco on the board. I've got Rashad White. I've got David Montgomery. Those are the 3 options I'm really looking at, and my favorite on the board is Rashad White, especially in a PPR. He played every single snap with the starters this last preseason game, and he gets a lot of receiving work, so he's going to be really good for PPR. And then looking at the receivers, you got Christian Kirk, Pickens, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. honestly not the best options. I think I'm just going to line up yet another running back before they go, and I am going to grab a guy that I also see as having a decent amount of upside with David Montgomery, and I'm done at running back. I got my 4. That's a ton of depth. And then after that, I'm going to try to just hit a bunch of receivers late and go for big upside guys.
Yeah, David Montgomery was definitely who, if I was picking, who I would have picked. He's on a fantastic offense with a fantastic offensive line, and he's taking over the role of another player that had 17 touchdowns last year. And so, I mean, obviously, you're never going to project a player for 17 touchdowns, but I would not be surprised if David Montgomery had 12 or
Mm-hmm.
14 touchdowns this year.
Plus, the
Just
contingency upside is just nuts.
Yeah, if Gibbs were to go down with injury and David Johnson gets all the workload, man, you have a league winner that you just drafted in the 9th round.
Yep.
So I love David Montgomery drafting this year. His value is just too good. All right, so coming up to me on the 9-10 turn, this is where I'm going to start looking at quarterbacks, just see who's available, especially in a 6-point per passing touchdown league, because that makes guys like Tua and Dak Prescott a little bit more valuable than they would be in a 4-point. If this was a 4-point per touchdown league, I would be looking at guys like Anthony Richardson because he has a high upside for that type of league because of his rushing ability. But since this is 6-point, Tua is going to be my pick here. I feel like getting him this late is a pretty good value, last pick of the 9th round. And then with my next pick, I can go in pretty much any direction here. So I'm going to take an upside pick. I know a lot of people may be off of this player because of what happened last year, but I am going to take Gabe Davis, who I am very high on because of where he's going. Last year, he was going in like the 4th round, which I said the entire season was way too high. But this year, he's going in the 10th to 11th, just depending on who you're playing with. And given his ability for the deep ball and the offense he plays with and the quarterback he has, getting a guy that has weekly winning upside, which, I mean, his boom games are boo games. He has multiple 30-point games, etc. Getting a guy this late that can win you weeks, I mean, you have to take that chance and shoot for the upside. We're not playing to come in third here. We're playing to win. So you have to shoot the upside.
All right.
Picking this late.
I have to pick receiver here, in my opinion, and there's one guy that's head and shoulders above the rest, and that's going to be Zay Flowers. Really want to shoot for upside in these later rounds, and he's a guy that could take control of the number 1 spot for Lamar Jackson in the pass catching role. A rookie, they are always going to have the ability to outperform their ADP a ton. Other options at receiver, I'm looking at Treylon Burks, Juju, Odell Beckham. Obviously don't want to go that route. I actually like Juju here. I went with a guy that I see as, being an ascending talent, and then another guy he's kind of, I guess, a little bit of a post-hype guy, He's not the hype player that everybody wants, but I think he's going to have a solid pass-catching role in New England. I think he has a chance to get the most targets there. All right, so you went late quarterback. I went a really early strategy with early quarterback and early tight end. I'm interested to see how these teams shape up.
Yeah, when it gets back to me, I'm definitely going to need to add a running back if there's a good one there. I only have 3. Granted, all 3 project to have a sizable workload. So assuming health should be okay. But I am looking to get at least 1 more running back. And then after that, I can go in pretty much any direction. I may just end up taking a double running back turn here because, I already have my tight end and quarterback and I already have 5 receivers. So with me only having 3 running backs, I may just take a double running back turn and shoot for some upside handcuff type guys because there are a couple on the board that I like, assuming they don't go with this pick. Let's see. So guys I'm looking at this point are going to be guys like rookies, so like Zach Charbonnet, guys who they project to have a slight role, but if the starter goes down, all right, so they did make it to me, so I am going to take Zach Charbonnet, and my next pick is going to be Jalen Warren. My thoughts on these guys, usually I do not take my own personal handcuff. It just so happens that Zach Charbonnet is Kenneth Walker's handcuff, but I feel like the value here on him is very good because if something were to happen to Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet is going to be an absolute animal. And then I also went with Jalen Warren here because we've seen through the first couple preseason games that he's an exceptional running back, especially at the explosive plays. And they've talked about getting him some more work. And so if he, carves out a significant role, maybe a 45% of the carries and slash catches, or if Najee were to struggle or get hurt again and he takes over, he could be a weekly upside flex for me.
I'm looking at, again, once you lock up that quarterback and that tight end for me, I'm not looking to get a backup. If you do have defense or kicker in your leagues, I am saving those till the absolute last possible picks. That is our strategy. We're not doing defense or kicker in this league, but my second to last pick would be defense. My last pick would be kicker. Defense, You just need to look at their week 1 matchup and their early season schedule. Don't care about their season outlook because you're going to be streaming that position. That being said, once you lock up your quarterback and once you lock up your tight end, like both of us have, as long as they're elite, and I consider mine to be extremely elite, I'm not taking another one. Unfortunately, my favorite pick here is Rashad Bateman, but I did get Zay Flowers. I really want to switch it up, so I'm going to have to go a different direction. And actually, a guy that I see as, he could get a decent amount of work and a little bit of a sleeper as far as just how much workload he's going to get is Jacoby Myers. He's a pretty talented wide receiver, man, and I think he's going to get a ton of targets in that offense. Looking at running back, if I wanted to go that direction, McKinnon in a PPR, honestly, I think he's also just going to get a ton of passing work. I really think he is. And it's going to be a split between him and Pacheco there. He had a really great run at the end of last season and another contingency guy where just like, if something happened to Pacheco, with my second to last pick here, I really don't mind that upside.
Yep. Another guy we just saw come off the board that I want to talk about is Jameson Williams. And personally, I think I'm not drafting him this year because of the suspension. I think, honestly, if you waited till week 2 or 3, if you really had conviction in Jameson Williams, you could probably either find him on the waiver or send a low ball trade offer for him so you don't have to hold him the entire 6 week he's going to be out. Because in the leagues I play in, you can't put suspended players on the IR. So I assume that's how most leagues are. So this player is going to have to sit on your bench. And especially in leagues that only have a 5 or 6 person bench, that's going to be extremely detrimental to your team because it's going to affect your depth and it's going to affect maybe your streaming capabilities of defense and kickers, etc. So I don't really like holding players like that. If you have conviction in him, don't draft him. Just wait till like week 2 or 3, send him a low ball offer, or maybe even pick him up off the waivers after their manager gets in a bind and has to drop him. That's how I go about situations like that on players. All right, now back up to me. I can take anything at this point, so I'm just going to shoot for some upside here. If you look at the running backs, there's really no one crazy. So I am going to take some receivers here, most likely. I'm going to take Rashee Rice. He's on the Chiefs. I know they don't really have rookie receivers that do anything, but Rashee Rice is a guy that you can just have on your roster week 1. If he's not involved or doesn't play many snaps, you can just cut him, do whatever. Another guy I'm looking at here, let's see. So this is something I also don't normally do, but I am not against it, especially if you have someone that might not be the best health. But I am going to go Sam Laporta here. So I generally don't take rookies, tight ends, and I don't take 2 tight ends. But here in a draft like this with the last pick, so we're in the 14th round, taking a high upside backup tight end just to see what happens early in the season isn't a terrible idea. He's on the Lions. He should be maybe second or third in the pecking order for targets on that team. Like I mentioned, they do not have Jameson Williams to start the season. So they really only have Amon-Ra and then whatever role Jahmyr Gibbs have in the passing game. So they're going to have to throw to somebody. So far, camp reports on Laporta have been excellent. They've loved it, and he's already been named the starter. So if you're looking for a really, really late tight end that just might have some upside, plug him onto your team. If you wait a week or 2 and he does absolutely nothing, I mean, you can just cut him. He's a low very low cost, very high upside type of play, especially when your first tight end like mine is Darren Waller, who is older and has struggled with injuries the past 2 years. It's not a terrible idea to kind of have a backup at that position just to see.
And this is the last pick of the draft. Again, I'm just going to go with a player I find to have a lot of upside. I'm going to grab another rookie, and I'm going to grab Jonathan Mingo. DJ Chark dealing with injury. Adam Thielen, he's getting up there in age. I don't think he's going to have a huge workload. And Mingo has an opportunity here as a rookie. So, got to shoot for the upside there. Looking at our whole teams now that the draft is over, thoughts on let's go through my team first. So at the 1 spot, I picked up Jefferson. Got elite tight end with Andrews and elite quarterback with Lamar Jackson. That is my advice, that if you can get good values on these guys in a 10 team, I'm willing to pay up for the quarterback and the tight end position. And my advice to you guys is that you should get at least one of those two. And I went with both here. So if you like the look of my team, then maybe that's the strategy for you. Still got good elite wide receivers with Jefferson, Amon-Ra, Mike Williams, and then some lower guys with upside, Zay Flowers, Juju, Jacoby Myers, and Mingo. Running back is my weak point for sure, but I got some guys with a lot of workload with Mixon and Pierce that I like a lot. And then some PPR, pass catchers, Rashad White and McKinnon, and then Montgomery, a guy who's going to get workload with a lot of upside as well.
Yep. All right, and then taking a look at my team, I kind of went a little bit different strategy. I went late quarterback and kind of midish round tight end. But to me, the values just didn't fall the way that they needed to. I didn't feel like reaching on the quarterbacks and tight ends that were available previously. So I just kind of let the draft come to me and take that aspect. My receivers are definitely my strong point with Cooper Kupp, Keenan Allen, T. Higgins, and Deontay Johnson as my starters. In a PPR league, you could not go wrong with that. And then running backs are, they're solid, not great. Bijan is elite. And then Kenneth Walker, James Cook, and also project to have big workloads. And then I just got some high upside guys like Zach Charbonnet, Jalen Warren, who, if an injury occurred, they could be weekly starters for myself as well. So if you like my makeup, going, RB receiver kind of heavy early and then taking a value whenever you see it at tight end and quarterback, you can go that route as well.
Another thing I will say about the late round tight end, because you took Laporta with your last pick. If you have conviction on a guy like that, I know a lot of people do on a lot of these late tight ends. If you feel like you can hit, you're not wasting a pick with your last pick, in my opinion. A lot of these guys aren't going to land anyway. Even if you do have a Waller, if Waller and Laporta have a great week 1, there's going to be a ton of teams that need tight end, and you can start sending trades and try to land something. So Absolutely. Last round, just shoot for upside. Whatever you think. If there's nobody else on the board that you have a lot of conviction in, just go with who you do. That's my advice.
Yep, it's a lottery ticket. Just full Hail Mary.
All right. Thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy this video, consider subscribing. Only 2% of our watchers are subscribed, so let's try to get that to maybe 3%. Thank you guys for subscribing. Thank you for watching.
Absolutely.
And we'll see you in the next one.